Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Just making sure that we're online. I pressed the right button this time. Yeah.
Genesis what?
We are in Genesis 41:37. All right. How was everyone's week?
Wonderful.
We have Richard and Linda already online. Good morning, guys. Anyone want to share anything or have any questions from last week? I think we got some folks who may want to introduce some friends and guests. Here, you guys go first.
These are our friends from Iowa, Bill and Linda Hermans. Happy to meet you. They're members of our congregation. They are members of the congregation we have up there. So.
Okay.
They're here to visit their son and his family, but they stop by to see us.
Yeah, we truly miss him, and we wish he had left us. Keep giving us his envelope too. But we really miss him.
And welcome.
I'm Linda Gafford. My daughter actually attends your church.
Excellent.
And this is Dave Watson.
Nice to have you. Good to have you with us this morning. There's coffee and donuts and whatnot up there. Welcome to that. And welcome back, Sanchez's. Did y'all have a good weekend last weekend? Even though it was in Louisiana? It is a great city to drive by and through.
Yes. A friend of mine asked me, what did you eat over there? I said, I'll just tell you what I didn't eat over there.
And Pastor, we finally got around to something we were remiss with Forge, our men's
Yeah.
which, because we're certainly about development and the Word of God. We're about acts of mercy, and we committed to being about getting together as men and having some fun and doing stupid guy stuff. So we went to a blacksmith shop. Bill was able to join us. Zeus, you missed out too, but we got plenty of videos to make you jealous. We went to a blacksmith shop that's in Belleville. Great guy, an actual professional master blacksmith. And went through a blacksmith demonstration. Some of the guys made knives out of horseshoes, and the rest hung around and threw tomahawks and did all kinds of cool stuff. So it was a lot of fun.
It was very cool. The demo was a lot longer than I expected, but it was very fascinating. I enjoyed it very much. Yeah, it was very cool. Very cool. All right, any questions from last week? All right, so you all know everything. I understand.
If not, we'll make it up.
Yeah. All right, we are in chapter 41, verse 37. In the beginning, God created, and there was bad stuff that happened, and now there's a famine, and God's people are in Egypt. I didn't know how much of a summary, you know. All right, Joseph rises to power. Okay. And if you can't see this, you can see over there too. And over there's a little pip too. All right. This proposal, what proposal was that? Right. So yeah, the interpretation of Pharaoh's dreams of the cattle and the stalks, so Joseph had said, "Look, you got to store up during the times of plenty to get ready for those times of lacking." So the proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God?" Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are." Again, do you this is a foreshadowing of someone else, and who would that be? Well, okay, but another Old Testament figure. No. Daniel. He was also one who seemed to have the Spirit of God in him, and who interpreted dreams and gave ready glory and and credit to God for that. Yeah.
Did Pharaoh become a believer in the
No.
God here?
No, I don't think there's any indication that Pharaoh was a believer in Yahweh. Maybe a believer that Joseph had a God and that God had some power, but certainly not a monotheistic view that Yahweh is God and all the others are false gods.
Yeah, the Study Bible footnote goes on with that a little bit to say he wasn't a true believer, but he did put God amongst his other idols. But he didn't take
Among the pantheon of other gods that were around. Yeah.
Simply because if there's an extra one, it's not a good idea to upset that one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just hedge your bets. Make sure that you're pleasing all of them. Right. You shall be over my house, and my people shall order themselves as at your command. Again, this is kind of a throwback also from Potiphar, who put him in charge of all of his house. Only as regards to the throne will I be greater than you. Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand, and he put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. He made him, oh boy, you're forcing me here, made him ride in his second chariot, and they called out before him, bow the knee. Thus he set before him all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath Paneah. There is a trivia question for you, because that shows up nowhere else in Scripture. That's it. It's not like in Daniel, Belteshazzar, you hear some of the other name at different times. This is the only place it shows up. So that's a great trivia question. He gave him in marriage to Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, not to be confused with Potiphar, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. All right, anything?
Okay, so Joseph just got out of jail.
Yep.
Got shaved, cleaned up to meet the Pharaoh. And now all of a sudden he's riding the chair, and Pharaoh says, nobody does anything unless you say, Joseph, I thought was more of a humble person. Say, hey, listen, we don't need to go this far.
Well, who is he to go against Pharaoh? What Pharaoh said, Yeah, I do wonder though if Joseph had kind of in his mind while Pharaoh was saying this, now my dreams as a youth are starting to come together. People bowing down to me, and what's going to take place here.
Well, as John said last week, I think what also should be going through Joseph's side is, I think Potiphar reports to me now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Potiphar is not so high and mighty now.
Well, Joseph was a believer, and so he probably felt that this was God's will too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. He gave praise and credit to God, and this is, you kind of seen the providence of God happening here.
And he saw potential to do a great thing.
Yeah. God was going to use him. I think Joseph probably had the neatest sock drawer in all of Egypt. He had a gift there. Organizing.
There were a lot of cities around this, correct?
Yes.
Because when I was reading up here and saying that they gathered all the food, all the cities, and then let them keep it. So he was ensuring that each city maintained their own reserve.
Yeah, and probably more logistics than anything else. How would you have all of them come to one storehouse in one city? Keep your eggs kind of divided into baskets there.
So he was helping them take care of the cities.
Yeah.
Was Egypt the same geographical?
More or less. Not identical to the geography, but pretty much. It's kind of like Israel and stuff. Some borders here and there and stuff, but by and large.
It says Zaphnath Paneah means God speaks and he lives.
God speaks and he lives. Yeah, yeah. So that God would. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Does God speak? And Joseph lived. Pharaoh lived. Who is the God who spoke, and who is the God who lived, or who is the ones who lived? All right.
He instantly gave him a wife, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
And of course,
I mean, yeah. He must have really been disturbed by these dreams because he kind of went way overboard on the interpretation of them. I mean, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. That's good. Let's prepare now, but make someone, from prison to the second in charge.
But oracles, we're really important. I'm
True.
sure he considered him not a one-trick pony. You're going to be able to do this for me in the future, right?
Well, yeah, it would have been expected that. This is not a one-time thing. Yeah. All right. 46. Joseph was 30 years old. I hate reading stuff like that because it makes me go, man, what have you done with your life? that whole comparison thing is not easy. He was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly. He gathered up all the food of these 7 years which occurred in the land of Egypt and put the food in the cities. He put in every city the food from the fields around it. And Joseph stored up gain in great abundance like the sand of the sea until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On, bore them to him. Now, do you remember who those were before reading ahead? You should. Manasseh and Ephraim. Right. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my hardship from all my father's house. And that's because Manasseh sounds like making to forget. And, this aspect of, that sometimes the words don't mean exactly that. They just sound, because if you remember Hebrew, the Hebrew that was written here didn't have any consonants, any vowels. It was only consonants. The vowel points came much later. That's what's called the Masoretic text, is the Hebrew with the vowel points. But the Hebrew here, it just had consonants. So you think about how many words, if you took all of the vowels out and just left consonants, how many would look like each other and yet not be the same word? Pronounced differently. Think more homonym type of things. Where were we? 52. The name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. And Ephraim sounds like making fruitful. Big shock. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. There was famine in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to the Egyptians, go to Joseph, what he says do you do? I'm thinking that Pharaoh has a really easy job right now. I mean, his lieutenant is doing everything. He's just getting all the glory. And not only is he getting all the glory, we're going to see he gets a whole lot more because of what Joseph is doing. Anything else? Anything strike you?
I put Google search on biblical Egypt. It doesn't stop at a artificial line that exists now. So old Egypt was separated between Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt as far as Upper Nile and Lower Nile. It includes all of what is today the Sudan and part of Ethiopia.
Really? There's that much greater?
Yeah. Wow. Because they held so much importance of the Nile, I can see they want to control the spring water.
The whole aspect there.
The waters, yeah.
Yeah.
It says he sold to
Yes, yes.
He took from them.
So during the years of plenty, he probably bought from them. Now he's selling it back to them. And he's going to do that multiple times here. We'll get
Since he gathered up and said he bought it from them.
I would tend to say that, yeah, they bought it from them during those times. So he bought low, he's going to sell high.
I'm not sure he bought it all because I think the Pharaoh would have said there's a tax.
Well, there was, and actually that's coming up too, what his tax was. But was that the tax during the time of gathering the stuff in? I think they already had stuff in place for how the government would buy and sell just as any others would. There'd be agreements and stuff in place. So I don't think it's like Pharaoh took all of the stuff and then sold everything back. I think he probably did buy most of the grain and stored it up, or at least a portion of it. Because the people still were able to make a living off of their stuff. The people were still able to take the grains that they made and still be able to sell the rest of it to be able to feed their family and make a living. But that's going to change. So, when the famine had spread over all of the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth. Now, it makes me think that, when he had given the suggestion of keeping, what was it, a fifth back or something like that, I think he had to have kept more back than that. I don't see how you got through those 7 years of deep famine with just 20% of the wealth of the previous years. Especially when you're feeding not just your country and people, but all these other countries and stuff coming to you as well.
But wasn't the first 7 years supposed to be very plentiful?
Yeah, it would have been probably extra plentiful.
More than normal?
Yeah, so 20% of more could be. But that was his suggestion. We don't actually know how much they did keep, just that his suggestion to Pharaoh at the time was to keep 20%.
The Lutheran Study Bible is drawing a parallel to the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
And that, it's a form of rationing, and that God doesn't provide us everything we would want, but what we need.
But everything we need.
Give us this day our daily bread, and foreshadowing, people are going to Him for their daily bread.
It doesn't promise everything that we want, but it gives us everything that we need for the day. Yeah.
So this overall the earth is mind-boggling. Is there?
Yeah, it's an over. I mean, are you talking?
Talking China?
Yeah, we don't know. When it says all the earth, it means all of the known land that they're talking about, right? I mean, I wouldn't read more into that. It's kind of like Rome ruling the world. Because they didn't rule the world; they ruled the known world to the Western people. Yeah, I find that fascinating. How did they do that?
So I've seen a documentary, and I don't remember which church it was, but they went over and they pretty much traveled the route when Moses went in and crossed the parting sea and stuff. And while they were there, they actually shown some of these grain reserves, sort of like cold storage, and they were like several stories underground. So when you
to keep it cool and dry.
And they were huge. I mean, they were immense. And you're thinking about gathering grain, and I mean, we see people that farm now. You go
right.
Did you see that? Like this entire town would probably take and fill up one of the grain reserves that you would have. So
logistically, it had to be a nightmare on how to do that. Yeah, because during all these times, you had to build all of those in all of the cities.
And keep the rats out.
And keep the critters out
A
too.
lot of cats. The Egyptians had a cat.
What's that, Susan?
They worshipped cats.
Oh well, sure. Yeah, I mean you definitely had to keep it.
And let's not forget the other thing the Egyptians were really good at, which is doing building with contract labor, also known as Jewish labor.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have any Jewish slaves yet. This was before the Jews were there. But
Did whoever they get their hands on.
yeah, I mean, they definitely had enough labor.
They had one Jewish slave.
They had one, well, yeah.
At least one.
All right, 42. When Jacob learned that there was grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down, buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." You wonder how he heard about that, but I'll bet the word got around pretty fast where the food was. So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to him. Okay. Meaning what?
He's now the favorite son.
He's now the favorite son. Doesn't care much for the other ones, or doesn't care as much. Boy, you feel the love. Joseph's brothers, 5. Thus the sons of Israel came to buy among the others who came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brother came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." He recognized his brothers. They did not recognize him. Joseph remembered the dream that he had dreamed of them, and he said to them, "You are spies. You've come to see the nakedness of the land." They said to him, "No, my lord. Your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." Murderers, maybe, but not spies, He said to them, "No, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see. He said, we, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. Behold, the youngest is in this day with our father, and one is no more," meaning one is dead. Joseph said to them, "It is as I said to you, you are spies. By this you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go from this place unless your younger brother comes here. Send one of you and let him bring your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you. Or else, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies." And he put them all together in custody for 3 days. What's going through your head during that time?
Dad's not happy.
Yeah, this is how did we get here? What the heck just happened? "18. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, 'Do this and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined where you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry grain to the famine of your households.'" So what's just happened?
He flipped his rule.
Yeah, he softened. He flipped the rule. Instead of sending one to go get Benjamin, he's now letting one stay and the rest go get it. I mean, that's a pretty softening over those 3 days. "So your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And they did so. Then they said to one another, "In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us." And Reuben answered them, "Hey, I told you so." Exactly. "Did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood." They did not know that Joseph understood them, for this was an interpreter between them. Now, I wonder if this was news now to Joseph about that Reuben wanted to have mercy on him. I wonder if he even knew about that, because remember, Reuben had stepped away when they decided to sell him and stuff, and he came back and then learned that he was gone. He knows now.
Toyed with him a little bit. I mean, here he is in charge. His brothers show up. Oh, really? Have some fun with you.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on? It's been a couple of years,
Uh-huh.
How's the family doing? Where did that you guys get going, do you have a guilty conscience?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Testing them.
He's testing it. And not just testing to see that they're telling the truth, but yeah, to see kind of what their character is anymore. Have they grown from any of this? And this isn't the first of the tests that he does. He's going to test them a couple of times on that aspect, on character. Then he turned away from them and wept. And he returned to them and he spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them. And he bound him before their eyes. Why Simeon?
I'll bet it's because it would have taken Reuben, because Reuben's the oldest one, but he just figured out Reuben kind of is responsible that he's alive.
Yeah, well, I think there could be some of that, yeah.
I'm going to take the next one.
Yeah, it could be some of that. It could also be the aspect of Reuben. Remember, he kind of gave up his birthright from his sin. So he's not kind of considered the chief anymore. Simeon would be next in line. But whatever the case, Simeon is kind of the next one in the order of pawns, I guess, of who should be in charge. But Simeon's going to give that up too. Okay, before his eyes, Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain and to replace every man's money in his sack and to give them provisions for the journey. This was done for them. Yeah, so the question is, why was this done for them? Why do you think Joseph did that? I think it's two reasons.
It helped Jacob. I mean,
It helped Jacob. Yeah.
His money back. I don't think he did it for his brothers.
No, I think he did it again as a test. Are they going to have integrity for this? But I also think he had a softening heart. This is my family. I don't want them to starve. And it's not like these are the only ones of his family. Most of the family is still back in Canaan, and they're still hungry. So he is going to take care of them too.
I think he did it also to pull fear in their hearts.
Yeah, I think that's a part of the testing, right? Okay, so what are you going to do with this information? This is not the way things are supposed to work out. Where is your moral fiber now? And how's that going to play out? Now, they loaded their donkeys with the grain and departed. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, well, I imagine probably there's some vernacular things that he probably said too. My money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of my sack. At this, their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, what is this that God has done for us, done to us? What's that? I think they see it as kind of divine retribution. The trouble that we are in right now is because of what we did, and God's paying us back. I think that's what they're seeing. I mean, doesn't it seem like good news? Hey, just write Simeon off, and we just made a great deal.
Yeah, but if you think about it, they showed up with silver to pay for the grain. Dad sent them, go. Take this journey, get us food, here's some money. Then they're going to return not only the grain, but the silver. And, hey, where's your brother at?
Yeah.
So what's Dad to think of this?
Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? And we'll see some of what Dad's going to think here in a minute. But yeah, it's they know far from being a good deal, this is a very bad deal.
I'm amazed they didn't recognize Joseph. I mean, obviously he had on the linen and...
Yeah, he would have been in a courtly aspect. Who knows? Maybe he had a shaved head. Who knows? I mean, I don't think it would have been that much. I guess, and he knew Egyptian and stuff too, which
Yeah, he was speaking the other language.
Yeah, how would you even think that? I don't think it would cross your mind, even if there was some semblance. It's like, okay, maybe they look a little bit alike, but
They might have thought it was spooky that he sounded like Joseph.
maybe, yeah. But I mean, what would make you think in the wildest dreams that this would be the case? What is this that God has done to us? When they came to Jacob, their father, in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, the man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies of the land. We said to him, we're honest men. We've never been spies. We're 12 brothers, sons of one father. One is no more, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, by this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me. Take the grain for the famine to your households and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me. Then I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men, and I will deliver your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land. As they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. I mean, what could have happened here? But with this realization,
They could have been arrested.
they could have been arrested. I mean, Egypt could have pursued them, taken them over, and just taken them out. There would be reason to be afraid here.
Because they would think that they stole it.
Yeah. And Jacob, their father, said to them, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more. I mean, he already considers him dead. And now you would take Benjamin? All this has come against me. And Reuben, he is an idiot. Reuben said to his father, kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. I mean, some of the vows that they make in the Old Testament, I mean, just what are you thinking here?
Well, the hierarchy of the family was definitely handling the way the Bible wants us to handle, well, the way it's described. Like, we've got Dad here, and he runs the whole thing. So
Yeah.
the children are coming to him, the male children are coming to him, they're doing this, and having your children, it's important to him. He's got all these sons. He has wealth with his kids, and they've got children. All these male heirs. And as he keeps going through, he's like, not only I lost one, but I lost another one because you decided to mess this up. Now a third one. Seriously?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
You're whittling away all of the promises that the way this is supposed to work here. Yeah. But Reuben, I mean, that is just a foolish thing. I mean, it's not take me, take my children. I mean, that's what are you thinking? But he doesn't take him up on that one. He said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. Only one left of what? He's not the only one left. The only one left of Rachel. Right. Yeah, I mean, again, thanks, Dad. We're standing right in front of you. Yeah, exactly. Only one left. If harm should happen to him on your journey that you make, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol. Wow. What's that? I would die of grief. Yeah. Exactly.
It's hard to imagine too how much, I mean, I know they use camels and they can carry a lot, but how massive is this 12 families? Because, they all got...
Oh, we'll hear how many in all in just a little bit. Yeah, it's a lot more than 12.
I mean, it's a couple of truckloads.
Yeah, it would have taken quite just a logistics just to get those 12 down there with the money, and then all of that food to come back. It would have been a lot.
And not just people food, but animal food.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's huge.
Because they have big flock.
Yeah.
I wonder if it ever crossed Jacob's mind to say, Reuben, you stay here and run things. I'm going to go down. If Benjamin has to go, he isn't leaving.
I think that the reason that didn't come to mind is because we see that Jacob had trouble traveling. They had to help him onto things and stuff, so I think he had some mobility issues. But he was 130. He was 130 at this point.
He had bad knees.
He had bad knees.
Well, we know he lived after fighting the angel,
That's right.
the pre-incarnate Christ.
Yeah, so he already had hip problems, right? All right, so Reuben has made this offer. Dad's not taking him up on it. And I think one of the other reasons Dad's not taking him is not just Benjamin, but I think Reuben's lost all credibility with Dad. I think his sin he is no longer a spokesman for the kids. It's not taking, and you see that Reuben is minimized from that point on. It's not he doesn't carry any kind of cachet at all.
Also, it's not crunch time yet, because now they've got grain.
Now they got grain.
Okay for a while, so he can easily say, no, he's not gonna go, well, because
he doesn't need to.
We'd have to go back anyway.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, and if he's already written Simeon off, he's not really worried about it. But it's going to come crunch time again. All right. The famine was severe in the land. We already do that. When they had eaten the grain that they had bought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go again, buy us a little food." And now you see someone else stepping up. Now this is when Judah starts kind of not just taking charge, but being seen as in charge. Judah said to him, "The man solemnly warned us, saying, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother down with us, we will go down and buy you food. If you will not send him, we will not go down, for the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.'" So Judah's confronting Dad here. Yeah, because you would think that Joseph, this leader, how would he know who this younger brother is? Of course he would have, but they didn't know that.
Simeon sitting around thinking, are they coming back or aren't they?
Right. I'm assuming that's an Amber Alert or something, huh?
But taking this on a deeper stance, to look at this, so we've got the brothers that went and sold off their brother. We've got dads all mad. I lost 2 kids out of this now, even though one still lives with him. Where is God's will in all this? He wants us to love each other. He wants us to be humble, forgiveness. Where is the learning value in all of that for this? And we're years down the road playing this off of the tables are now shifted and turned, and again, where's the lesson value of it?
Well, yeah, I think that's a good question. Because there should have been some value and lessons learned, but I don't think the lessons are learned until a bit later.
But if we go back and look at Israel and Dad, based on his trials and tribulations as he's coming up before he has his family, he went through his own little plight in life.
He did?
So you learned a lesson then, now you're moving forward, things are good. But as humans, we're still...
We always harken back. We forget about the last time God was faithful in our lives. Right? It's like, it's almost like, okay, God, what have you done for me lately? Right? We kind of forget about that as we learn. And Israel, or Jacob, whichever name you want to call him, he even says when he's introduced to Pharaoh later, I've had a rough life. Basically, my life has been nothing but troubles. Well, that's not true. We do have selective memories. Some of us only remember the good times, and some of us only remember the bad times. But the fact of the matter is, God's been faithful numerous times through our life, and we should always look at that as, well, God was faithful then. There's no reason to think He's not going to be faithful now. But we don't think that way. We think, woe is me.
I just wonder what's been going through Simeon's mind all this time.
Yeah, that's what Bill's saying over here. Yeah, what's going on? He's sitting there going, okay then, are they ever coming back? Yeah, because we don't know how much time it took for them to go through these rations here. Yeah.
Again, Scripture's silent, but I'm assuming that he probably was in the same prison that Joseph was.
Yeah, it's very likely. Although there was a separate pit and stuff for those who were under royalty. So was he in that one, or was he not? We don't know. But it is kind of it tickles the mind to think, was he in the same place that Joseph was? I don't know. And of course, he wouldn't have figured that out until maybe later. But Israel said, was it verse 6? Israel said, well, why did you treat me so badly as to tell the man that you had a brother? He's kind of like saying, you idiots, why did you just mention it in the first place? Then we wouldn't be in this predicament. Well, they replied, hey, look, the man questioned us carefully about ourselves and our kindred, saying, is your father still alive? Do you have another brother? What we told him was an answer to these questions. Could we in any way know that he would say, bring your brother down? Judah said to Israel his father, send the boy with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you, and also all our little ones. I will be a pledge of his safety. From my hand, you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. If we had not been delayed, we would now have returned twice. So it is curious that he didn't take Reuben's word, but he's going to take Judah's word. I would have returned twice. That tells you that Daddy's been waiting this out for a bit. He knew this was an issue, and he knew they needed to go get some more food, but he's hoping that the famine's going to end or something's going to happen and he won't have to address it. And really, when he's talking to them, he kind of glosses over what the requirement was. Just go and buy some more food. Let's just not address the situation at all.
There's a footnote that said could have returned twice, making the reference that made 2 trips to Egypt, perhaps over 2 years' time. How long are they traveling?
We don't know how long the travel, the distance was substantial, especially when you're talking so many camels and other, an entourage to have to do this. But yeah, how much food did they have and how long did it take them to we don't know. When they took food back, did they take enough? Likely more than a month. Because that just wouldn't be feasible. It'd take longer than that probably to make the travel. So some significant time had probably taken place here. We just don't know how much.
They just got to take enough food to get there. They're essentially buying a one-way ticket.
True.
And they'll get a return.
Yeah.
But I think they took enough back thinking that they'd get through the famine, not knowing.
Yeah, I think so too. They were hoping that would be enough to make it through the famine, and it wasn't.
It's interesting that even though there's a famine, the trees are still bearing almonds.
Yeah.
True, yeah, because that's some of what's going to be given back. You're reading ahead. What was the famine like, and what did it affect that we don't know. All right. Then their father Israel said to them, well, fine. If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the choice fruits of the land in your bag, carry a present down to the man, a little balm and a little honey, gum, myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Now some of those things didn't grow in Egypt. So these would have been kind of delicacies and nice gifts.
A gallon of water to grow 1 almond in California.
A gallon of water for 1 almond. So that would have been quite the feat to be able to.
Of some kind.
But obviously not enough. But I mean, that would have made the almonds all the more rare and special. Take double the money with you. Carry back with you the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was an oversight. Take also your brother and arise and go to the man. May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, and may he send back your other brother and Benjamin. As for me, if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. He's kind of resigned himself to the fact. So the men took this present, and they took double the money with them and Benjamin. They arose and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, bring the men into the house and slaughter an animal and make ready for the men who are to dine with me at noon. The man did as Joseph told him and brought to the men to Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought to Joseph's house. That wouldn't normally be a good thing. And they said, "It is because of the money which was replaced in our sacks the first time that we are brought in, so that they may assault us and fall upon us to make us servants and seize our donkeys." So they went up to them, to the stewards of Joseph's house, and spoke with him at the door of the house and said, they're pleading their case for him, hoping they're going to receive some mercy here. "Oh, my Lord, we came down the first time to buy food, and when we came to the lodging place, we opened our sacks, and there was each man's money in the mouth of his sacks, our money in full weight. So we have brought it again with us, and we have brought our other money down with us to buy food. We don't know who put our money in our sacks." And he's saying, "Hey, chill. Peace to you. Don't be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, has put treasure in your sacks for you. I received your money." Then he brought Simeon out to them. And when the man had brought out the men into Joseph's house and given them water and had washed their feet, and when they had given their donkeys fodder, they prepared the present for Joseph's coming at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. When Joseph came home, they brought into the house to him the present that they had with them and bowed down to him to the ground. He inquired about their welfare and said, "Is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive?" He said, "Your servant, our father, is well. He's still alive." They bowed their heads and prostrated themselves. He lifted up his eyes and he saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and he said, "Is this your youngest brother, of whom you spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son." Joseph hurried out, for his compassion grew warm for his brother, and he sought a place to weep. He entered his chamber, and he wept there. Then he washed his face, and he came out, and controlling himself, he said, "Serve the food." They served him by himself, and then by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat with the Hebrews, for this is an abomination to the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another in amazement. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as theirs. And they drank and were merry with them. Wow.
We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto.
We're not in Kansas anymore. That's that, yes.
How do you force a family reunion?
How do you, yeah. Yeah, there's still just one missing. There's one missing. Dad. Well, and all the kids too.
Stories and lore that go around, like the raping of the girl and the circumcisions, and then while they were weak, they just came in and slaughtered them all, right?
Right.
So if you're carrying around this guilt that you've done bad stuff and you're about to be brought in, it's got to be going through your minds. This is it.
This is it. This is payback.
They're going to give us some wine and slit our throats.
Yeah.
This is what it's going down.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder. But I mean, it had to be especially puzzling why Benjamin was getting the special treatment. I mean, how would you process that? What would be the reason for that?
And he seated them in order of their birth without asking.
Well, we don't. I don't know. They were seated. Does that mean that they were told as seated, or they just sat naturally in that order? I don't think that's clear from the text.
Well, but it said they're astonished. They were surprised.
What verse are you at?
Verse 33.
The firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest.
And they sat before him, right?
And the Amplified said they were seated by the steward.
Oh.
Ah. Well, that would be interesting.
And how did they speak to the steward anyway? Because he was Egyptian and they were Hebrew, didn't they?
I imagine the steward, because we do know that they had interpreters, because we hear before that there was an interpreter between them. So the steward probably was an interpreter also.
Place cards on the table.
They had place cards on the table, right?
Is it significant that the food came from Joseph's table, or is that just the way it was?
I don't know, but I thought that was interesting as well. That the portions came from his table instead of being separate. What I also find interesting is that Joseph's household, they sat separate from Joseph too. Now the question I have is, was it common for Pharaoh to eat by himself? Those in high positions to eat separate from the staff or from other people in their household, or was he seated separately because the Egyptians knew that he was Hebrew, and so he was separated already?
It said it was an abomination.
It was an abomination for them to sit. So was Joseph sitting separate from the rest of the Egyptians because of his status, or because they knew he was Hebrew?
No, I mean, he was number 2 in
But he was still Hebrew, and they knew that he was Hebrew.
But what was his wife?
Well, she was Egyptian.
So,
Yeah, did he get to eat with his wife? Oh, I don't know. It's a curious thing. We don't know enough.
I've read that he gave Benjamin so much more because he wanted to see if the other brothers were jealous.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it could be another test.
Jealous of him.
I think, though, from his emotional outburst right before that, I think it has much more to do with the emotions of just longing and so happy to see his brother. I think that's more of it, but it could be a test too. I don't know. We're going to stop there because we have Braxton's not here and Colin's not here, and so I need to set up for the stream for worship, so I need to go over there and do that. So we're going to stop here at 44.
just Wednesday.
It's all good. All right.
I like the precedent we set that you need to do a recap last week on Genesis.
All right. Anything else this morning? Let's go with the benediction. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with favor and give you his peace. Amen. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful